my name is Donovan Bowman, and I am doing Dorothy Puente, the Death House Landlady. Some background info. Dorothy was born on January 9th, 1929. She eventually died on March 27th, 2011. She was nicknamed the Death House Landlady. She had 9 confirmed kills and 6 unconfirmed kills. Her killing span was from 1982 to 1988. Her targets were elderly people or mentally disabled boarders. After killing her target, she would crash their social security check and take their money. Her childhood. Dorothy had a rough childhood. Her parents were both alcoholics, and her dad repeatedly talked about committing suicide in front of her. Her dad later died in 1937 from tuberculosis. Her mom lost custody of her children, including Dorothy, in 1938. Dorothy's mom died later that same year. Dorothy was sent to an orphanage along with her other siblings where she was sexually abused. At the age of 16, she got her first marriage with Fred McFall in 1945, who had just returned from the Pacific Theater in World War II. She had 2 daughters with McFall between 1946 and 1948. However, she sent one of them to live with family members in Sacramento and placed the other one up for adoption. In the spring of 1948, Dorothy was caught purchasing women accessories and clothing with forged checks in Riverside. She was arrested and found guilty on 2 different cases of forgery. She served 4 months in jail for this crime. Since this was her first crime, she was given 3 years prohibition. 6 years after this offense, she left Riverside. In San Francisco in 1952, she married for her second time Axel Brent Johansson. She created a fake person calling herself Taya Singela Nearda. She claimed that she was of Egyptian and Israeli descent. She also said that she was a follower of the Muslim religion. Dorothy took advantage of Axel's frequent trips away by inviting men over and gambling his money away. In 1960, Dorothy was accused and arrested for owning a brothel in Sacramento. She was only sentenced to prison in 90 days after claiming innocence. Her husband, Johansson, briefly sent her to DeWitt State Hospital after a series of drinking, criminal behavior, lying, and suicide attempts. Doctors there had diagnosed her as a pathological liar with an unstable personality. Dorothy and Johansson divorced in 1966. In April of 1982, a 61-year-old Ruth Monroe began to live with Dorothy in her upstairs apartment, but died of an overdose of codeine. Dorothy told the police Ruth had killed herself because of depression from the husband being mentally ill. The police believed Dorothy's claim and claimed that the death was because of a suicide. A couple weeks later, the police arrived at Dorothy's house claiming that a 74-year-old man named Malcolm McKenzie had accused her of drugging him and stealing from him. She was charged with theft 3 times and sentenced to 5 years in prison on August 18, 1982. She began to converse with a 77-year-old man named Everson Gilmouth. They developed a pen-pal relationship, and when Dorothy was released in 1985 after only serving part of her sentence, Everson was waiting for her in a 1980 red Ford pickup truck. The relationship developed quickly, and they soon had been making wedding plans. In November 1985, Dorothy hired a man named Ishmael Flores to install wood paneling in her apartment. For the work he had done, Dorothy gave him an additional $800 in a well-conditioned 1980 red Ford pickup, claiming it had belonged to her boyfriend in Los Angeles, who no longer wanted it. She also asked him to build a 6-foot by 3-foot by 2-foot box to store books and other items. She asked Flores to transport the filled and nailed shut box to a storage depot. On the way to the depot, Dorothy asked the man to stop on the Garden Highway in Sutter County and dump the box into the riverbank in an unofficial household dumping site. Dorothy claimed the box was filled of junk and things she didn't need anymore. On January 1st, 1986, a fisherman found the box sitting 3 feet away from the bank and informed the police. What they found inside the box was a badly decomposed and unidentifiable body of an elderly man inside. Dorothy wrote letters to Everson's family about that he couldn't contact them because he was ill. Everson's body remained unidentified for 3 years. Dorothy continued to accept elderly tenants and became popular among social workers. She collected tenants' monthly mail before they saw it and paid them in stipends, taking the rest for expenses. Suspicion first occurred when the neighbors noticed odd activity from a homeless, alcoholic man named Chief. Dorothy claimed that she had adopted him and made him her personal handyman. Dorothy had Chief dig in the basement and cart soil away in a wheelbarrow. At the time, the basement floor was a concrete slab. Chief Lawyer took down the garage and installed a concrete slab there. Soon after the slab was installed, Chief had disappeared. On November 11, 1988, police became suspicious after the mysterious disappearance of Alberto Montoya, a mentally disabled man whose social worker had reported to the police that he was missing. After the police noticed disturbed soil on Dorothy's property, they uncovered 7 different bodies. Dorothy was charged with 9 total murders. Everson Gilmouth, 77, and 8 tenants who lived at the boarding house: Ruth Monroe, Leona Carpenter, Alvaro Gonzalez Montoya, Dorothy Miller, Benjamin Fink, James Gallup, Vera Faye Martin, and Betty Palmer. During the first investigation, Dorothy wasn't ruled as a suspect. When she went to get coffee at a nearby coffee shop, but then immediately fled for Los Angeles with the man she had met in the bar. However, the man noticed the police reports of Dorothy and called the police.